was loud. So welcome back, everybody. So we'll go ahead and get started. Just as a note, so we have our second exam that's opened up this week. It should open this morning, and it'll be due this Sunday. Yeah. Does it open today?
Yeah, so let's do Friday.
Let me get back to you on that one. I'm spacing on that situation. I might be getting that confused with the final exam. The final exam is supposed to be open on Monday and due Friday. I think the exams are supposed to be due. Let me get back to you on that one. The other exam was due Friday. That's right. No, that is right. That is right. It is due Friday, just to make sure you do it during the week. That way, if there are any problems, since I don't typically respond on the via email on the weekends, that way, if there's any problems, then we can get them done during the week. But where was it? So we have section 2.6 to still finish off here, and then after we finish section 2.6, we'll move on to we'll do some practice problems that kind of encompass a lot of other things, of course. And then are a lot of like problems that kind of try and bring together a few concepts along with some review questions. And then starting on Wednesday, we'll start up chapter 3 with averages. I highly recommend like printing off once again or taking a screenshot of that chart, because that'll be very useful for the quiz on 2.6 and for the exam. As per usual with the exams, you have 3 attempts. So if you here, let me get a better picture of it. Let me give you guys a. I'm gonna need it here anyways. There we go. So you have 3 attempts. The best score is taken. So if you're unhappy with your first attempt, study up, try again, and see. Like, you can always email me asking which problems you got right or wrong or whatever. Make sure that there were no typos. It happens every once in a while. Like last exam, I had several people email me saying like I missed a 0 or something like that, and that can happen. So that's why I'm here. So you can let me know those situations, and we can go from there. Otherwise, we're just going to start up with where we left off, with a very, very illuminating example on how much interest you pay on a home loan. In case you don't know, it's substantial. So example. Let me zoom in just a smidgen. Yeah. Determine the amount of interest paid on a 30-year loan of $385,000 at an APR of 4.5%. Amount of interest paid on a loan, 30-year loan of $385,000 at an APR of 4.5%. So, first and foremost, if we need to know how much interest we're paying, we need to know how much we're going to be paying each month. We need to know our monthly payment, because if we don't know how much we're paying every month, we don't know how to calculate how much we paid in total. So first, find the monthly payment. And that's where we're going to use our little amortization table here. And remember how it works is you find the percentage and find the number of years for the loan, and then kind of the intersection is what number we're going to use in that formula. That's our payment factor. So a 4.5% loan be the first line, and a 30-year loan would be there. So this is the number we're going to be using, 5.0669. So for our monthly payment, it's going to be the payment factor. So 5.0669 times the loan amount, 385,000 divided by 1,000. That's plugging into the formula. Payment factor times your loan amount divided by 1,000. And the reason why it's divided by 1,000 is because this is per $1,000. That's how the amortization table works. And if you plug that into your calculator, and you round to this, so 5.006 or 0.669 times 38500 divided by 1,000. You get 1950.76 roughly. So just shy of $2,000 a month in just the mortgage. We'll talk about just the mortgage versus everything else that goes into it in just a moment. But that's our monthly payment. Now, how would we find out how much we pay in total? Pay that.
All times 30 is.
Exactly right.
And then right, 250.
Exactly right. It's a unit conversion. So 1950 $76 per month. And we want to know how much per year. So there's 12 months in a year. And then there's 30 years in one loan. Right, like that's the course of like that's the span of the loan. So this will be the amount of money, the months cancel, the years cancel. So it's this amount of money per loan. So that's why we can stop there. And when you plug that into your calculator, so that's going to be all the numerators go, or all the denominators go away, and you just get 1950.76 times 12 times 30, which ends up being $702,273.60. Now that's not the answer because the answer is asking for the interest paid. So we take the amount that we paid and subtract off the actual price of the loan. The interest equals the total paid minus the loan amount. So that is going to be $702,273.60 minus $385,000, which ends up being $317,273.60. In interest. It's a lot. Almost double. Like for a house that costs $385,000, you almost paid double for it over the course of a 30-year loan. Now, I do think that number is obscene. That number is quite ridiculous that you nearly have to pay double what your house is worth in order to own a home. The amount of interest goes down the number of years in the loan. Typically speaking, not somewhat substantially. And of course, the interest rate does affect this greatly. If the interest rate is higher, there's going to be more paid in interest. Yes, that number is quite upsetting, at least to me, that I have to, like, for a $385,000 house, that you'd have to pay an additional $317 on top of that just to live there. The only thing that I will say in the defense of them is that they are taking a high risk with a 30-year loan. Because they're like, that means if they give you a 30-year loan, that means that for the next 30 years, they're expecting that you're going to be paying them every month for 360 months.
No matter what happens.
No matter what happens. And so they all like, and if you bankrupt out of it, then they've lost that $385,000. So one thing that you can do now, it's not in the scope of our course, but there is a situation where you can look at the amount of interest paid on each month of the loan. And you'll see that for the first about, I think it's roughly the first 10 to 12 years of the loan, that's where the most interest is coming from. Once you get past that point, the interest starts to die down. And that makes sense from their standpoint. Most people will default on their loans within like the first 10 or so years. That's like the most common time that it happens. So they need to recoup much of their losses during that time period wherever possible. Do I still think that it should be that much? No, absolutely not. But it's the world we live in. Maybe it'll change. Maybe one day. Well, I mean, they're talking about making them 60-year loans to make the monthly payment a little bit lower. So that's nice. Like, so you buy it when you're 25, you'll get it done when you're 85. Pay off your house at the time you're 85. How great is that? What is the world going to look like in 60 years? I have no clue. But anyways, that is the shocking thing here. So, but the process was finding the monthly payment, multiplying by the number of payments, which would be 12 times 30, because there's 12 months in every year and there's 30 years in the loan. That gives you the total amount that you paid, and then you subtract off the loan amount to find your interest. Now, there is the next little subsection here. It's called the fine print. Because when you purchase a home, there is a lot more than just the mortgage that they don't tell you about until like so if you go on, like I don't necessarily know if Zillow does it. I should check. I should have checked before class. But like if they tell you the mortgage amount, that's not including all the extra things that you have to pay for on top of the mortgage. So the key expenses on top of the mortgage are the following. Number one, most common one, is real estate or property tax. The real estate and property tax is something you have to pay in addition to your home. Why? I do not know. Well, no, I do. It's to make sure that, like, to maintain the roads around your neighborhood, maintain the pipes, all that stuff. Though if the things burst on your property, then it's your responsibility, which is BS. But the real estate, and this is based on the actual price of the home. Not the loan amount. AMT for amount. So real estate or property tax is calculated based on the actual price of the home. Instead of what the loan amount is. So it's not like you could just make a massive down payment and like make it so there's only $1,000 left on your mortgage, and then you only have to pay real estate tax on $1,000. You pay it on the entire aspect of the house. Let's say something. So this is why one of my mentors when I was teaching. So when the 2008 crash happened, the price of their house plummeted, just like a lot of people's, right? And so he had his house reassessed so that it could adjust his property taxes, because the house dropped in like $200,000 in value. That's $200,000 of property tax that you don't have to pay. So if that ever happens, hopefully it doesn't, right? Hopefully your house doesn't devalue. But if it does, feel free to try and do that in addition to all the other things that you're trying to do during a recession like that. And then the other thing is that it's calculated annually and then divided over 12 months. So you'll get your annual property taxes, which they'll then divide by 12. That's property tax. The next one is homeowners insurance. Which never does anything for you anyways, but they'll have to pay it. So just in case your bathroom, your shower starts leaking and causing a bunch of damage in your house, you have to go through all the nitty-gritty details with your homeowner's insurance to make sure that they'll be willing to pay for it. And cause severe damage to your psyche and make you go into a depression for over 2 years. Not talking about anything from experience or anything like that. I hate contractors. It was a whole mess. 3, the other one is a homeowners association. Homeowners association fees, which depending on your homeowners association can be good, can be bad. Some homeowners associations or HOAs are really, really good. They keep your area nice and clean. Other ones want to penalize you for painting your house a different color than the 5 choices that they have. So they can make your life a living nightmare, but some of them are good. Last one, and this is my least favorite one, is private mortgage insurance. Or PMI. What is a PMI, you may ask? So if you don't make the 20% down payment on a home, then you have to apply for private mortgage insurance, which is basically there to make sure that you pay off the rest of the loan. And if you don't, then the insurance company pays back the loan provider. And so, which is really frustrating, especially in places like California, where the average cost of a home is over $1 million. Who has $200,000 on hand?
Unless you move to Santa Clarita.
That's
where my mom and I are moving.
Like in California?
Yeah, the house there are like 300,000.
Well, that's a reasonable amount. That's not too bad, but
20 miles. No,
huh. I did not know that. But I mean, even then, though, even a $300,000 house, a 20% down payment would be $60,000. I don't know about you guys. I don't have $60,000 lying around just to, yeah. If I had $60,000, I'd rather use that on buying like 50 PlayStation 5s, right? No. But in all seriousness, so like this is just a big middle finger to the average American. And I get why it's there, but it is very frustrating to say the least. So those are the main 4 things that you want to take into account. Those are usually the things that get added on top of your loan. So, example, keeping those things in mind, determine the monthly payment, determine the actual given the following information. So the loan amount is $285,000. The APR is 6.75%. The term is 30 years. The assessed value is $300,000. Property taxes is 2.5% assessed annually. Insurance is $400 a year. And PMI is $105 per month. So I know that's a lot to write, so I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna let you write that all down. And also I didn't mention something, I didn't know about it until I got here. And so apparently with the homes here, sometimes they contracted people and they didn't really, I don't know the exact specifics of it, but the people who built the plumbing of the house, they they also have to get a cut because like they weren't paid fully, so like you have to pay off that portion of it as well. So like there's some of those types of things. There's additional fees every once in a while, depending on the state you live in. They might have their own little gimmick. But I know that was one of them with a couple places that hadn't paid off their plumbing fee for like plumbing the house. So that was included in some of them. So, by the way, the fact that the property tax says 2.5 assessed annually is because property tax usually gets looked at a yearly basis. Sometimes taxes go up, sometimes they go down. So it changes year to year. That's why it says assessed annually. But really the thing we're looking out for there is it's 2.5% annually here. So, does everyone have that written down? Not yet. It's a lot of writing, I know. So the things we need to keep in mind when it comes to a mortgage pay, your full mortgage, your total actual monthly payment is the mortgage amount, property taxes, the insurance. This one, there's no homeowners association fee. So we're one of the lucky ones. We can paint our house pink if we want. And then the PMI and the insurance. Notice, by the way, that the insurance is mentioning $400 per year. So be very, look very clearly on the information that's given on these types of problems. Because sometimes they'll say the insurance is this amount per month. Other times it'll say per year. So we always want to be looking out for those facts because we're trying to find a monthly payment. So first things first. First, we need the mortgage amount. So, looking at the chart, by the way. So from the chart, the payment factor was 6.4860 because this was a third. I mean, I can bring it down here. I can paste it again. If you want to look at it, but a 6.75% and a 30-year loan, 6.4860. So that means that our monthly payment, our MP, is 6.4860 times 285,000 divided by 1,000. Because remember, this is the mortgage payment is based on the loan amount, not about the assessed value. The assessed value comes into play when it comes to property taxes.
And so, I'm sorry, just clarification, the reason we're dividing it by 1,000 is because the way the chart is made, it says.
Yes.
Okay.
If like there are plenty of other different amortization formulas, it could be per $100, in which case you divide by 100. Per $500, you divide by 500, so on and so forth. Thank you for the question. So that ends up being 860 times 285,000 divided by 1,000. And that is equal to $1,848.51. So I'm going to underline that. I'm not going to box it in. So I only boxed in my answers. However, if there's important bits of information that I'm going to need to take care of later on and combine together, I usually underline them in my notes or in my work that I'm doing so that I can look back and just find the things that are underlined. That way I don't have to parse through everything to find it. That's our monthly payment. The next thing we need to take care of is the property tax. So we're doing a it's so property tax 2.5% of the home value. This is a percentage problem of, meaning that's going to be the base. This is going to be B. This is P. This is B. And then this is A. The property tax is the amount of the whole of 2.5% of the home value. So A equals P times B. Told you these things always come back up. Percentages are very, very useful and important. So A is equal to 0.025 times the assessed value of the home, not the 285,000. That's the loan amount. The 300,000. And that's going to be 300,000 times 0.025 gives you 7,500 per year. Per year. So we want to do it per month because we're finding our monthly payment. So $7,500 divided by 12, because there's 12 months in a year, gives us $625 per month in property taxes. So I'm going to underline that one a lot and say like that's another one that we're going to have to add into our calculation. Then the insurance. Was $400 per year, which implies 400 divided by 12, which is $33.33 per month. It's $400 per year, so we divide it by 12 to get the per month amount. Any questions so far? Alrighty. HOA? None. We don't have to worry about that aspect of it. Some problems do require, like some problems that you'll see in your homework and on the exam might have an HOA fee.
They just give you a standard fee on them.
Yeah, it's usually like given per month. And so like there might be a situation where they say like this amount per year, but just so be on the lookout for the per year versus per month situation. But that one is going to be just like with insurance where you'll either just keep the number there or have to divide by 12, one of the two. And then last but not least, PMI was already given, which is $105 per month. That was already mentioned in the problem statement. So in total, actual monthly payment is going to be that 1816.08. No, wait, yeah. What did
48.
I? Okay, yeah, sorry. Um, 48.51. Plus the property tax, 625, plus the insurance per month, $33.33, plus $105 per month in private mortgage insurance. Gives me a whopping grand total of $2,611.84. That's how much you have to pay on top. That's the fine print. So it's not just $1,848. It's $2,600. It's nearly yeah, almost a cold G more, as they say. So that little fine print. So it's one extra thing here and there. So, any questions on? Yes.
So every time we'll do it all together, there's never gonna be a time. I guess they put it in there, but they just say like something different, like what's the payment?
Yeah, it's all it,
Cause you're saying like the actual payment, so I'm like, what is that, like, cause.
I see like yeah, so like what's the difference between like them saying like what's the payment versus what's the actual payment? So typically speaking, if they're just asking for the mortgage, they will ask for what's the mortgage payment. And none of this information will be mentioned.
Okay,
So if the insurance is mentioned and stuff like that, that's gonna be where you add up everything. Yeah, good question. Very, very good question. Because like, yeah, they're like, which one's the actual mortgage payment? This is really like mortgage plus escrow, I think is what they call it. But yeah. All right. Last thing from this section is the housing recommendation. Number 2, also outdated, but we still apply it in the US, so great. The amount of money, the amount of a mortgage loan should not exceed 3 times the family's annual gross income. Amount of mortgage, the loan that you get should not exceed 3 times your family's annual gross income. It's that thing like the Michael Scott, like he buys the ring and it's 3 years salary. It's like the goal is a 3 month salary, I think is what you're supposed to save. But also, so it's supposed to be 3 times your annual gross income. Sure. When houses are $1 million in certain areas. Sure, that makes sense. So some examples of this and how you can see these problems being used, this housing recommendation. So let's say Bonnie and Clyde have a combined gross annual income of shoot, of $998,750. What is the largest mortgage they can, what is the largest loan they can get? And much like the previous one, it's not, it's a very, very quick calculation. Just take the number of their annual gross income, multiply it by 3. So 98,000, $98,750. 3 times that gives you a whopping total of $296,250 is the quote unquote maximum that they can afford. Now, this is a recommendation, not a requirement. So, like, if you're a little bit over that, so maybe they just round it up to the nearest 100,000, so they give you a $300,000 loan. That is the maximum amount that they can get based on their loan amount. Whether that's still accurate, is up to interpretation. One more, and then we'll do the remaining time will be on kind of some extra practice and review problems. I'll try and tie in a bunch of things. So let's say Josh wants to purchase a $425,000 home. If Josh's annual gross income is $105,000, how much will Josh need for a down payment? Based on the housing recommendation, so you notice even with $110,000 multiplied by 3, you only get a $330,000 like loan amount. So this is outside of his price range if he didn't make a down payment. So if he were to just take a loan on for the entire amount without making a down payment, he wouldn't be able to afford this home. So what we need to do, we need to figure out the total amount of loan that he could take on, and then that will be the amount that he needs to have once he puts down his down payment. So maximum loan, AMT for amount, is going to be 105,000 times 3, because that based on the housing recommendation number 2, that's going to be how much the loan amount cannot exceed. So that should be 315,000. Therefore, the down payment needs to be $425,000 minus that $315,000, because if he, whatever this number is, which ends up being $110,000. Because if Josh put down $110,000, then that would bring the total, like the amount of loan that he would need to make down to 315, therefore making it something achievable for him. Yeah, I'll just go into my bank account, rip out $110,000, no big deal. He's been saving every penny since he was born, apparently. So Yes.
I think I missed something. How did you get the 40?
So. The 315,000, that's the maximum amount that Josh can attain for a loan. So in order to be able to purchase this, for like, by purchase, I mean be able to get a mortgage on this home. That number, like, he can't exceed 315,000. So he would need to make up the difference with a down payment to bring down the actual amount of money left over to be 315,000. So if you take the actual price of the house and subtract off the maximum loan that you can make, that gives you the amount that he needs to make up in the difference.
Oh, okay.
Why do we get multiplied by 3?
That's the housing recommendations. The housing recommendation says that your annual income, like your loan amount, cannot exceed 3 times your annual gross income. Okay. Any questions on that? All right, that's the end of chapter 2. And we'll be moving on to chapter 3 next week, or on Wednesday rather. But I wanted to do some combined, some little bit of review. And unfortunately, this time I wasn't able to print them out, so we're gonna have to write them down. Sorry. What? I know, like I know, and I'm sorry. I did not get a chance. Sorry. I will make sure on the next one to do that as well, because the next one's gonna be dealing with averages and graphs and stuff. So maybe some sections. So that one will definitely have a printed out copy this time. So please forgive me this one time. So Joe buys a computer for $1,025 with sales tax of 8.35%. Joe will pay for it over 2 years with 4.75% simple interest. What is his monthly payment? I realized that a lot of the problems in that section, I think it was 4.3 or no, 4.4. A lot of those problems didn't have anything calculating sales tax. So this is combining section 2.2 on percentages with 2.4-ish. So the total amount, I guess technically speaking, so they're going to include tax on the simple interest, because that's going to be the total amount that he has to pay back. So first and foremost, we need to know what the sales tax is. So we can do that either that trick where we can either find what the sales tax is and add it on top of the 1025, or we can do 108.35% of the $1,025. I recommend the latter, recommend the second option. So
So not using A equals P times B.
well, we're using A equals P times B, but instead of P being 8.35%, P is going to be 100, so it's going to be 1.0835. Is that all right? Either way will be fine. If you want to find the sales tax first and then add it on top, it's fine as well. So this will be 1.0835. times 1025 to give you the sales tax amount. Which is, when you round to the nearest cent, $1,110.59. That's the amount that he has to pay back over 2 years at a 4.75% simple interest. The fact that it says simple interest right there tells us we're using the simple interest formula, I equals PRT. So always be on the lookout for that. We're going to be using I equals PRT here. So if it says compounded anywhere, that's when you're using the compound interest formula. Otherwise, you're using the simple interest formula. So I is equal to PRT. So P is going to be the price of the amount of the total price of the computer, 1,059, times a rate of 0.0475, because it's 4.75% in simple interest over 2 years. So we're going to use it 2 for time. Is $105.51 when we round to the nearest cent. But remember, that's the interest. We're trying to figure out his monthly payments, so we need to take, it's going to be over 24 payments, right? This is a monthly payment over 2 years, 2 times 12 months per year. That gives you 24 payments. We need to add those two numbers together because that's the price, the total price of the laptop plus the amount of interest. So total amount is that $1,110.59 plus $105.51, which equals to $1,216.10 over 24 months. We'll take that 1216.10 and divide that by 24 to give us a $50.67 per month. Any questions on that? So making equal monthly payments. That's why we divided by 24, because there's 24 months and 2 years. We had the key thing to remember, and it's frustrating, but the simple interest formula only calculates the interest on a loan or a price, whereas the compound interest formula finds the total amount, including the interest. So there's that kind of duality. Any questions on that? All right. Number 2. Tom. So, just as an aside, this drives me nuts. So that's Thomas, right? But so I was trying to drive my grandmother to way back when I was a teenager. I was trying to drive my grandmother to an appointment because my dad couldn't drive her and neither could my mom. So he's like, you just need to get off on San Tomas. And I was like, so I was driving and I was on the freeway. I was like, I don't see San Tomas anywhere. Like, I was looking for something that said San Tomas. And he was like, no, San, like, I was like, I see a San Thomas. And he's like, no, that's it. And I wanted to punch my dad at that point. Because I was already late for the appointment. So anyways, just that version of the name. So Tom has a special credit card for food. It's one of those things where he gets cash back on restaurants and stuff like that. So he uses that credit card only for food. It's another credit card he uses for grocery stores because he has a grocery store credit card or whatever. For his billing cycle, that ended on August 12th. The MFC, the monthly finance charge, was $3.48. If the credit card has an APR of 13.49%, what was his average daily balance? What was his ADB? It's a little different than what we've been doing. We usually find the monthly finance charge. Like, it gives you the average daily balance, it gives you the billing cycle, it gives you the APR, and you have to find the MFC. Here, we're given the MFC, and we need to find the average daily balance. So the formula, I'll let you write that down. Actually, it's a long problem. Formula, in case you don't have it memorized, which I've told you don't need to, you can just use that little cheat sheet. But the monthly finance charge, MFC, is equal to your average daily balance times your daily percentage rate times days in billing cycle. And that's the formula. So we know the monthly finance charge is $3.48. The ADB is unknown. The daily percentage rate is 0.1349 divided by 365. Remember, this problem gave us the APR, not the DPR. So always be on the lookout for that again as well. If it tells you the daily percentage rate, just write that one down. But if it gives you the annual percentage rate, then you need to divide by 365. And then the number of days in the billing cycle using the knuckle trick. So it ends in August, which means it started in July, right?
Yes.
So that's the month we passed through. So that's what we're going to find. Like, the number of days in July is what we're going to be using. So January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. So 31 days. Because it passed through the July, the billing cycle was 31 days. So we need to solve for the average daily balance. That means that whatever this number is that we get on the right-hand side of ADB, we need to divide $3.48 by that. So 0.1349 divided by 365 times 31 gives us that 3.48 is equal to average daily balance times 0.0114572 da, 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 da. For these numbers, when you get such a small number, every little bit kind of starts to count. So I'd write as many decimal places as you can. I had a couple more, but usually this should be enough. So we'll divide by that number on both sides to get the ADB by itself. And that cancels it on the right and gives us the average daily balance would be 3.48 divided by 0.001 or 0.0114572 gives us an average daily balance of $303.74. Keep in mind, by the way, that's not how much he's being charged every day. Like that's not how much money, like he's not spending $303.74 every day on food. Though in this economy, absolutely. But it's like the first month, the first day of his credit card billing cycle, spent like $25. And the next day he spent $48. So 25 plus 48 is 73. So the next day is 73, and then it goes up a little bit. Maybe he didn't spend anything on the next 3 days. So those days have a billing amount of $73. And then finally it gets all added up and averaged. So by the end of it, his average daily balance was $303.74. Any questions on that? Okay. This one's a fun one. 3. Jen is putting some money in a CD for her newborn son with an APR of 8% compounded quarterly. Her goal is for the account to have $30,000 when he turns 22. How much should she put in the account initially? So ideally, they'll be graduating. She's got this perfect picture, like cookie cutter picture for her son. That he'll graduate high school at 18. He'll graduate college when he's 22, and then be ready to buy his first house. Totally reasonable and totally the way everybody's life goes. So she's hoping for that. So she wants $30,000 because she's going to give him a down payment. That's going to be her surprise gift to her son, is the down payment on the house when he turns 22. So this one, as soon as I saw that word, I'll let you finish writing it. Finish writing. There's one word that stuck out at me. That was the compounded. As soon as I saw compounded quarterly, I knew I was using the compound interest formula, which once again, you guys do not have to have memorized, but in case you don't have it memorized, it's A is equal to P times 1 plus R divided by N raised to the NT. That's the compound interest formula, where A is the total amount, P is the principal or the initial amount, and R is your annual percentage rate, N is the number of times it's compounded per year, and T is time. So. Do we know A? Yes, we want the total amount in the account to be 30,000. And the question is asking how much should she put initially? So what is the initial amount? What is the principal amount? P is the unknown here. The rate was given at 8%, so 0.08, and it's compounded quarterly, which means that it's compounded 4 times per year. So N is 4. Raised to the 4 times. Now she's putting this into the account when her son is born. So when he's 0 years old. So when he turns 22, that means the time is 22. If she had made this when he was 2 years old, if she had made it when he made this decision when he was 2 years old, instead of a 22, we'd be doing 20, and so on and so forth. So plugging that in my calculator, we're going to solve for P, which means we need to know what that number is going to be on the right of it. So 1 plus 0.08 divided by 4 raised to the 4 times 22. You should get this. You should get 30,000 equals P times 5.712354, roughly. If you don't get that number, something's wrong. I'm seeing a concerned look. Did you put your exponent in parentheses?
No.
Probably not. That'd be so just remember, you need to be very careful when you plug this in. Because if you don't put the exponents in parentheses, if you don't put the proper parentheses everywhere, everything kind of goes kaput. Question?
So you have to put on, like, even if you have like the.
If your calculator has math print, so my calculator has math print. Sorry, people watching the recording, but I'm gonna switch over to the document camera for a moment, so you can see what mine looks like.
I don't.
So my calculator has what we call math print. And so when I put the exponent button, it puts it into the, like, so I'll show you what happens. So parenthesis 1 plus 0.08 divided by 4 raised to, now it gives me a little button in mine that tells me, like, that keeps me inside the exponent. So then 4 times 22. So what? Must be nice. Now, if you want to do it like if your calculator doesn't do that, you need to put the exponent in parentheses. Otherwise, it won't read it right.
It's because I always just multiply it out first and then I just.
That is another way to bypass this. I should have mentioned that a long time ago. If you want to not have to worry about that, you can calculate the 4 times 22 first, and then just put that number as the exponent without having to worry about parentheses. So. Anyways, so we've got that number there. We want to solve for P, so we want to get the P by itself. So we will divide both sides by that number. 5.712354. Always try to leave as many decimals when you're computing a problem. Only round at the end once you've actually found the value that you're interested in. So 30,000 divided by 5.712354 gives me that she needs to put in roughly $5,251.78. That's the amount she needs to start with an APR of 8% compounded quarterly. 8% would be pretty steep. Like most CDs that I've seen are usually anywhere from like 2 to 4%. So this would be a steal. And thing to keep in mind though, this is only a one-time investment to get $30,000. If you wanted to make, like, you do that a lot faster if you were making a monthly payment into an account. for them, that was compound interest, like that was compounded. Like if you were putting $150 a month for 22 years, you'd definitely get that much faster. All right. Any questions on that? All right. I got two more. Or Phoenix is back at it again at Phoenix's Sizzy Loans. Is loaning out $1,000 with the understanding that you will repay $1,075. What APR is this? Yeah, just for 75. Repay 10,075 in 2 weeks. Excuse me.
1,000.
What did I say? 10,000. I think. No. I think you're right. So 1075 in 2 weeks. Loaning out $1,000 with the just a nominal fee of $75 added on top of it, just for loaning you that $1,000. Nothing big, right? That's not too crazy. It's not even 10% of the loan. You have to pay back in 2 weeks. So. Do it.
That part's crazy.
But you had to pay back in 2 weeks. Yeah. Like. So here, just as a reminder, APR is calculated as the interest charged in 1 year divided by the loan amount. Right? That's how we calculate APR, like loan amount, purchase price, whatever it may be. But it's the interest charged in 1 year divided by the loan amount. So we have the interest that would be charged in 2 weeks. Will be 1075 minus 1,000. So $75 per 2 weeks. Now we need to know how many weeks there are in a year. Does anyone remember? 52. 365 divided by 7 gives you 52 and change. So we just rounded to a nice 52 weeks. So
50, you already have 2 weeks, or
so it's per 2 weeks. So we have 26 of them total. So this is where unit conversion comes into play really helpfully. So it's $75 every 2 weeks. And then we know that there are 52 weeks in 1 year. So that will give us the interest charged per year, because it's $75 in interest every 2 weeks. 52 weeks in a year will give us exactly what we need. So 75 times 52 divided by 2 gives us 1950. So if you were to get if they were to instead keep this payment going where they charge you $75 every month for and then they're going to get it to you at the end of the year, they would be charging you $1950 in interest. So take that $1950, divide it by the loan amount of 1,000, you get 1.95. as a decimal. So an APR of 195%. And why? That's why they're really messed up. Why payday loans are messed up. Any questions on that? Interest charge per year, we were given it per 2 weeks, so we needed to figure out how much interest to be charged in a year period. And go from there. All right. What time is it? Okay, perfect. We got just enough time to do this last one. All right. Yes, go ahead.
So if it's every 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
multiply, I don't get how we would do 75 times 50 here, because that's weekly.
So that would be weekly, then we're doing it, so like, that would be 70, like. We're doing it every, like, that's why I have the 2 weeks in the denominator, because it's $75 per 2 weeks. And then I'm like, in order to get that to be a year, I'm doing a unit conversion of converting the weeks to years. Is that okay, or? For sure. Another way to have done this without using unit conversions would be to say, if there's, so 1 year is equal to 52 weeks. So you take that 52 and divide it by 2 to get the number of 2-week periods. 52 divided by 2 is 26, 26 2-week periods. So you do 75 times 26, and that would give you the same number, 1950. You like that way more? That's fine. So if it was every 3 weeks, you take 52 and divide it by 3. If it was every 4 weeks, you divide by 4, and so on and so forth. All right. So, number 5, last one. Not you. A rental company rents out a washer / dryer combo for an installation fee of $100, because they gotta bring it into the house, they gotta hook it up, everything like that. So $100 and $55 per month. Per month of the rental. You're interested in a new washer dryer combo that costs $1,125 with 7.35% sales tax. And so the question would be, how many months would like after how many months would it be more beneficial to own instead of rent? How many months would it take for it to be better to own versus rent? Right, if you're only get like, so very, very reasonable question. If like you're in an apartment and you want to know, like you're just renting one because I mean, $1,125 is a pretty sizable sum right up front. So how do we, do we take the $100 installation fee at $55 per month? How long would it take for me to actually end up paying that off? Then you could maybe just take on a loan for that type of thing. Shoot, I could have made this even more complicated and made it so that it's $1,125 over 4 years with simple interest, blah, 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 whatever it may be. So first things first is we need to know the cost of renting a washer dryer. So let's see. The cost of the rental and M equal the number of months. Because this is a linear model. It's a linear model because every month it goes up by the same amount, $55, and there's a fixed installation fee of $100. So that gives us that C is equal to 100 plus 55M. Now, so this will give us the cost of renting it for any given number of months. What we're trying to find out is when the two numbers kind of meet. When will the cost of the rental be the cost of owning that unit yourself? But we need to also include the sales tax. So the cost of the new washer dryer combo, 7.5%, 7.35% sales tax. So we take the cost would be 1.0735. That's 100% of the cost of the thing plus the 7.35% in interest, and multiply that by the cost of the unit, which was $1,125.
1207.69.
Say that again.
1207.
Yeah, 1207.69. Very good. So we want to know when the cost of the rental would be $1,200. Because if it goes over that, then it would make more sense to have purchased it. Yes.
Wait, but isn't that just the sales?
That's when I did 1.0735.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
understand.
So what I want to do is find out when the cost of the rental unit would be 1207. Because if I do that, then that tell me after that month, it would make less sense to have rented. So 1207.69 is equal to 100 plus 55M. Does it make sense how I'm setting up the equation? Because I want the cost of my unit, like my rental, to equal the amount that it would cost for this new washer dryer combo. So would it make sense to purchase it outright or just rent it for the time being? So subtract off 100 from both sides. You get $1,107.69 equals 55M. And to get the M by itself, we divide both sides by 55. To cancel the 55 on the right-hand side, and you get that M should equal 20.13. 20.14 months. So after on the 21st month, it would make more sense to have purchased it outright. After that point, and before that point, it would make sense to just rent. So if you're just planning on being in an apartment for like 12 months and then moving, and you don't really want to move a hunk, like haul that hunk of junk, then I would say just continue renting. But otherwise, if you're planning to stay in there for several years, it makes sense to purchase instead of rent. Okay, guys, that'll be it for today. So make sure you so study up and take that exam as soon as possible. And then I will see you guys on Wednesday, all right? you have any questions, feel free to email me.